Hello, welcome. This is Sunday League, your weekly competition. You join us right at the end of the first lap of a wet qualifying session here in Slovenia. Nomskar is on provisional pole. Brilliant. Buda, the driver that he had as his ANR last season, now racing for the Mayhem team. He's currently in second place provisionally. This should be an absolutely banging race we ride on board with Kraft at the moment. We'll switch away from him so he doesn't feel too under pressure. Let's talk about some of the reserves coming in for this race. Andries in for BAR, Jake Brad's Future, currently uncertain, Suicide and Game Mongoose both in for the SCP team, the Italian outfit. Then I believe we also have Kraft in for Lynx. Apologies for the police car just outside. I think they're coming for me. And that is pretty much it in terms of the reserves. Nomskar 39.07 is the pace set by the Portuguese man Danimator and Nuno. Have moved themselves right up ahead of Buda, the Estonian, looking for potentially his I think it'll be his second career pole position. That'd be very impressive from him. Nomskar, a driver who has struggled for form, particularly after that first round of Sunday League X. Few podiums came his way, but he's looking to get that kick back in his stride. Podium in Portimao, of course. Let's see what he could do here in the qualifying session. Nomskar comes up to the line. Will he improve? No, he doesn't. Can anybody else? Nobody enough to take it off him. Hernandi improves to third place. Buda, Bottles, he said, go down to fifth. But Nomskar will start on pole position by 0.23 seconds here in Slovenia at the Gozno circuit. Danimator will start alongside him on the front row. We've seen these two on the front row a couple times before. Hernandi, it's a good qualifying for him and LSA. Third and fourth are Hernandi and Nuno, the RMC driver. Buda will be starting in fifth place. Corvid, an impressive sixth, top of the sort of so-called midfield runners. Anti, not amazing there. Seventh place in quality for him. And Caddo in eighth, who has been struggling for results of recent. His last couple races for RMC, and of course an absence in one of them as well. But he's looking to get back on good form here. Eighth in the RMC in a wet qualifying session. Ninth for Kubo, also very impressive seeing him top half of the grid once again for the Flow Force driver. And Grandi will start from 10th. Pamucius and Sobel, a very qualified 11th and 12th slot, well over 100 races between the two of them. Jaruni starts 13th, and it's the LYRs 14th and 15th Eurist ahead of Kraft. Andries, our reserve for today, all four reserves, funnily enough, right at the back here. He'll start 16th, right ahead of the SCPs, Game on Goose, the emergency, out-qualifying the regular ANR for Scuderia Paracaro, which is Suicide. He'll start from last. Goose called in last minute because of the absence of Spuda. Goose, how do you think your race is going to go?
We're locked in, I think, feeling great. This has been my best track in a couple months, so I'm really looking forward to making this triple header race appearance this weekend.
Brilliant. That is really go on, yours.
Skip, is it a good idea to have you stream to Discord?
Yeah.
Considering we've been having some issues with that.
I think it wasn't necessarily that previously, and I've not had any lag from that. I think it was the controller I had connected, which the outdated firmware was causing me stutters.
Alright.
But yeah, that's I've sort of tried to clear that, and I think it should be all good. Haven't got that connected today. Right, nearly ready to get underway here for...
Okay, Nuno is telling you something.
What's he telling me?
I think it's about COVID. If he's very laggy, tell him to DNF.
Okay, I can do that. Right,
Wasn't his...
ready for the race start here. Nomskar starts from pole position. Is he going to go for the mediums? Bit of tyre chicken on the grid. We're underway in Gozno. Nomskar gets a good start. Hernandi tries to close up behind Daninator to begin with. Nuno, we've got Anti and Buda fighting it out in the background. What can Anti do here? Will there be a bit of a crunch here? 4 wide they go through, and Caddo is through into 5th place. 4-5 for RMC at the moment. Is he just going to stick in behind his teammate? You'd reckon he might just do that, but he's bring the fight a little bit to Nuno. Nuno goes to the outside line. That is the preferable choice through that corner for the time being. Meanwhile, Nomskar and Danny are our first and second drivers, as it was on the grid. Nomskar, a specialist in leading races, in winning them, and it looks like he's going to convert pole into a first lap lead here. Danny there, and Nuno chasing down Hernandi, our top 5 currently looking to break away a little bit. It's been a very good start from the Frenchman in 5th. Corvid and Kubo fighting it out.
Crashed into the pit wall.
Oh no!
Shit.
All the way back there. no, 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 and Anti is in after lap 1. Some may call that karma. Pamucius as well involved in a big collision. We must have just missed that, but that is huge for the Nordic former teammates there. 17th and 18th place for their respective teams. Anti took the stop himself, and so he trails Pamucius by a few seconds, but that could be potentially race ending. We'll keep an eye on their emergence back through the field as we see their names tick up on the HUD. But Nomskar currently leads Andy, the FLF, still in control here at Gosno. Nuno in 4th. It's a 4-car train in the front. It looks like Caddo's just lost the slipstream of that. He needs to stick ahead of the Australian Corvid. Nuno has a little look to the outside of Danimator there. What can we see? Here, Noms just looks to try and break away as those behind him potentially fight Hanandi. A little nick of grass going through the 90-degree right-hander. It's a very long lap time here. Danny looks to make a move on Hanandi. They have to use all the runoff there on the exit, and Danny reclaims his second place as it was on the grid. Hanandi still in third, and Nuno just waiting for any mistakes or crashes, and he'll be able to pounce in. Look at this snake weaving through the field here. Danimator still putting the pressure on the Portuguese man. Buda in 5th. He's lost the slipstream of then. It's Kubo, it's Caddo, and it's Grandi. Corvid, little grass cut there. Looks to have not harmed him too much. I'm sure he saw something different on his screen, but Caddo is in this pack now. Sort of fallen back a little bit, but the good start is well matter to him. He's not lost any positions from that initial grid slot. Buda, Kubo in 6th. That would be a career highest finish for him. He's of course reclaimed a few not reclaimed, just claimed a few top 10s in his time, especially more in recent races, but he's looked really impressive. He's one of the sort of definite assets on that Sunday League grid. Very exciting prospect. Yeah, 10th place in the season opener in season 11 in Spain, and that was his best result of the season thus far. Any changes up ahead? Noms and Hanandi side by side, so Noms lost a couple spots there, but he's still very much within the slipstream train. It's a game of chicken here. We'll watch the strategy really carefully because it looks like everyone in the top 6 has gone for the soft compound tyre. Everyone in the top half of the grid, barring Corvid, also on the soft as well. So really interesting. Those lower down, you can see a pretty clear cut 9th and 10th place, and it's majority hard for the back half of the grid, even with some pretty fast names in there. Sobel and of course Anti and Pamucius, but Hanandi, Danny and Noms, this is the sort of accordion effect. They all slinky up going through that right-hander, and they're going to look to not trip over each other. That could give way to Buda behind, although Danny, if he was a strategic genius, might want to do a little bit of backing up, maybe setting the pace a tad slower and getting his teammate involved in this fight. More points for Mayhem, but I probably shouldn't be saying that. Danny goes in, Hanandi goes in, Noms and Nuno are all veterans, carry on going through, both multiple time championship winners, and Kubo currently sits in 4th position. It's Corvid. Danny exits just ahead of Girouni. He's going to look to take a bit of slipstream from the German driver, but Jaro, I think, a little bit outside of that range just for the time being. Hanandi with Eurus behind on the hards. The split makes this really interesting. Only Pamucius started on the medium compound tyre, so you'll either see drivers come in early, lap 6 or 7, and I would be surprised if we didn't see Noms and Nuno come in now, unless they'd think that an overcutting clean air could be beneficial, but those tyres are getting pretty worn. Long lap time here, nearly 40 seconds, definitely in that region on worn tyres. Buda will also come in behind them. Can Nuno get into his pit box? Yes, he can, just about. But Danny and of course Hanandi will go through with the undercut, and that's really worked out nicely for them. I think that's that in-lap with really slow pace and getting stuck behind Jeru now. So sometimes, well, he's moved out of the way, that's really good for them. But the overcut, not necessarily always the move. You do have to deal with the tyre wear, and you do potentially have to deal with traffic on exit. Corvid had led the race there. Looks like he's still trying to lead the race here, and he is holding up Danny just a little bit, but an incredible outlap from Danimator has broken him clear. He's looking to take his first victory in Sunday League since it would be Lusail at the end of last season. Of course, the winners so far have all shared one name, that is Nuno, looking to make it 4 in a row, which is a feat he's achieved a few times in Sunday League. He's a very strong racer. It's a feat been achieved a few times across the board. Nomskar did it in season 5, Nuno in season 6 and 8, and K in seasons 1 and 2. A little bit of trivia for you there. Noms goes very wide through the runoff there. Might just be a bit of a lag issue. Does look like it. I'm glad we did a CC for him, but it didn't get him out of the lobby, and he is just pinging around a little bit. How much is Corvid willing to hold up these blokes ahead of him. Noms and Nuno looking to get through here, and Corvid will zoom out into that pit lane. This has allowed Buda to catch up. That is very, very interesting, and the Estonian will be licking his lips waiting for that chance to be able to get through. Hernandi currently in second. Danny, with a good strategy early on, looks to be leading here. Nuno and Noms are going to try and break back into that slipstream range. Best of the rest so far. Kubo in a very impressive 6th place, having already stopped. Sobel and Eurus both started on the hards. They'll be hoping for a bit of rain at the moment. Caddo stopped, and he's going to look to get back through on Eurus. He'd love a top 10, boost the confidence back again after a shaky patch of form, and that could potentially revitalise RMC's charge for the constructors, as well as Nuno has been doing. The Mayhem outfit are very, very strong in their racing. Corvid did come in. He's now in 10th place. Make that 8th. Sobel and Eurus finally get rid of that hard compound tyre. 10 laps, you wouldn't think is a very long time to last on a tyre, particularly one that boasts being the hardest in the range, but it is, as mentioned before, a very, very long lap time. Nuno, Hernandi and Nomskar look to fight it out a little bit here. Whoever the lead of this train is needs to not be negatively affected, because that will just allow Danny to pull tenths and tenths and tenths each lap. Of course, we do have rain enabled, and that could shake things up later on, but currently Danny looking in a very strong position to take his first win of the season, potentially kick back into action a title challenge for this season. Noms looks up the inside of Hernandi, doesn't commit to that move, and Hernandi does run a little bit wide, sticks in the slipstream of Nuno, who does, remember, have that lap fresher soft. But look at Danny skating around. It's off that racing line, all the rubber, the marbles really don't give you that much grip. It's like driving on ice, a lot of commentators like to say. Of course I would never, but Danny, who did take that undercut, took the benefit early on and is now taking the pain of having a lap older, not just a lap, but 40 seconds older tyres, pretty much, 38 if you're being more exact, and that's why the gap is not growing and might just start to close. Danny, very conservative on that. He was going quite slowly into that corner. It looks on the HUD that he's lost about a second there. We'll have a look back at our valiant fighters. Antti, who took the hards near the very beginning, is slipping Grandy, who is on significantly fresher hard compound tyres. This is working really well for Antti. This could pull him back into some contention if he can negate the tyre wear by taking the slipstream of somebody who does have better tyres. Pamushas is fighting Caddo. They're down here. Caddo has just come in for yet another stop. He's fighting Eurus. It's Danny, it's Nuno, all into the pit lane here. Kubo takes 3rd place. Nice for FLF. They're 1 and 3 at the moment. Kubo could stay out, maybe try and get that glory lap led if Noms and Buda feel like pitting this lap. Kubo feels like taking it 1 extra, but that should be interesting. He might factor in here. Danimator closes down on him. Nuno and Hernandi out of the slipstream range. Nomska, who was the piece in the jigsaw binding the two together, is now fighting Buda out front, who has recovered well. Was 5th and a bit of drift to begin with. Noms and Buda come in. Will it be an FLF double stack, or will Kubo lead at his own track? No, he certainly won't, because he did get overtaken by Danny and Nuno. Noms comes into the pit lane. Of course, the overcut here does not prove very effective to begin with. He is now pretty clean adrift of Hernandi. We've got a spaced out top 4. Buda still there behind Noms, and he's going to hope that he can take the slipstream of the soft tyre runner. Buda is a very, very keen strategist. He's a big believer in that sort of thing and does lots of testing beforehand. And of course, if you can make the hards work here, this is a thing that has been said, if you can slipstream somebody on the softs and then maybe slipstream somebody else on the softs when that person goes in, you can make an entire hard stint, last a long time and have the same punch in it and same pace around a very flat out track as any normal soft stint would. So it would be really interesting. Can Buda challenge for the lead just as closely as he did in Spain, where he was not altogether that far behind? We'll keep an eye on the gaps at the moment. It's 0.52 between the race leader and second place. Danny now has the same age tyre as Nuno. Nuno visually looks like the gap is sort of stretching and growing. He's not in slipstream range yet. He'll need a couple more tenths. If you had, 3 car lengths on Danny, that would give him the grand suck of air. Oh, we're going to have a bit of rain. This is a terrifying strategic choice for the drivers out here to make. But the question is, Nuno looked pretty put off by that. But Danny also makes a mistake of his own. We've got a driver into the pit lane. It's Eurist in 12th. It's a bold strategy. Will it pay off? Both LYRs are the first cars to come into the lane. Does Nuno have the slipstream yet? He's so close. He has it now. RMC and MAY separated by very little, and Nuno is back in control here. Danny and Nuno will stick out. Hanandi is the first of our front runners to take that gamble. Buda will as well. Really interesting. He was on the hards. You might want to think that he'd stick it out and, like a soft runner, you know, who'll obviously have the pace. As we can see, Kubo here currently running in 6th, trying to turn that into 5th. Let's see how our front pack is doing. They're going to have to weed their way through. There's been no announcement further. Look at the drifting. That's so cool. There's been no further announcement about the rain as they go through the corner here. This could be a huge undercut chance for Hanandi. Huge indeed. Hasn't won a race since his home Grand Prix in Sunday League X. Nuno dives through a very tactful move, and this is what we were worried about with a long lap time. Look how long they had to run, nearly a full minute, and Hanandi will coast through and into the lead of the Grand Prix. Nuno on the inters will come up behind Buda as well. Extending by 1 lap was not the strategy, and Kubo is our last runner into the pits. Kato up into 7th place. He's made a good strategic call there. Corvid in 6th as well. Looking really sharp, but Nomskar particularly really hurting there. We've not had any announcement about heavy rain at all, which is really odd, because normally after some light rain announcement you would have either the reveal of it being bait rain or fake rain, the drivers call it, or potentially a stretch to a heavier patch. If it is heavier, then you're obviously wanting the wets, but 4 drivers have chosen the inters, and those 4 drivers are running pretty quick at the moment. Nuno, despite that strategic blunder of sorts, I suppose, but you know, a lap overcut doesn't normally cost you that much time. It certainly does here in Gosno. You don't pass that pit lane very often. He is catching the front 2 though, and this race has played perfectly into the hand of Hanandi. Buda also looking for 2nd place, and Nuno trying to establish himself back. He's not finished off the podium in nearly a calendar year, which is a really impressive statistic, but it's been a lot of races, probably coming up on 30 now. He did miss a fair few in his retirement patch of sorts. Heavy rain on the way. That's going to annoy Nuno a little bit. Let's see how long that heavy rain lasts, but obviously the inters are going to be nowhere near as good. They're used to dealing with these conditions where that rain bar is about a 5th full, but any more than that and you're going to find a little bit of difficulty in getting your tyres to properly be suited to those conditions. Hanandi still leads the way. It's great to be back in the commentary booth a few weeks away, and I was expertly covered by Mr. Goose and Mr. Hetmenica. Light rain coming back. That's fascinating. I reckon with the standing water, it'll be enough to make the wet tyres go faster. We'll do lap time comparisons. Nuno's last lap was a 39.62. Buda's was 3/10 faster. Hanandi an extra 10th.5 on that. Danny's, interestingly enough, a little bit slower, but through this first sector, visually at least, he looked to have just closed that gap up a little bit. Kado looking on for a strong finish, as is Corvid. It wouldn't be the best finish of Kado's career. He did manage 5th place in the Hungarian Grand Prix just a season ago, but Corvid certainly a pretty newcomer to the league, and he will be doing very, very nicely with a 6th place, a proper Class A finish. Antti asking for slipstream. Looks like, is he asking from or for Kubo to slip? Because that is the key differentiation. I guess. Ooh, Antti makes a mistake. Kubo runs right into the back of him. Looks like Danny's closing in on Nuno. We'll check back out that in a second, but it looks like Kubo's just trying to slipstream here. I'm sure he'll probably apologise for that one after the race, but this is interesting to see how close behind Kubo is, and that's looking really good for him and potentially getting that top 10 finish. Kado is looking really nice with his pace at the moment. Nuno has dropped back thoroughly from Buda. The gap is now 3 seconds. It used to be about a 1.5 seconds. The track is drying out now, but Danny has just breezed his way through, and Noms is bringing himself back into contention. We've got the fight for the lead here. not really a fight at the moment. Buda is about half a pit stop back, but we've got Danny, Nuno and Nomskar all separated by about 1.3 seconds, so really not that much between them. Let's have a look lower down. We saw Antti and Kubo. Jurist, very strong P11. He hasn't managed a top 10 in a while though. Grandi, and not since Sochi, I believe it was. Grandi on the Inters, finally giving way to Pamushas, who had that kerfuffle at the start of the race, but him and Antti have recovered incredibly well. And Jaruni with a very solid 12th place for him. It would be Grandi would be slightly disappointed with 13th as it stands. Graf in 14th, great for him. And Jurist was the first driver to come in for the softs. Hernandi also now in, as is, I assume, everyone. Buda and Noms and Danimator and Nuno right up to the back of Danny still. As they entered the pit lane, as they'll exit it here. So they're just going to be hoping to slipstream. Noms on an interesting strategy. If he can maintain the slip of those soft runners and go for the overcut, obviously you can overcut a lap or even two on softs, but you have to deal with the fact that softs at the very end of their life will be very bad. Nomskar on the mediums, which are designed to overcut the softs by a lap or two, and can be a very fast race tyre, but at a very flat out track like this, you'd question his ability to catch the back of that Nunometer slipstream train. They're pretty quickly catching Buda. We've only got about 14 laps to run here left in Gosno. It's not been a chaotic fight at the front, but Hernandi looking for his first win in, I believe it would be 12 races for the Hungarian racer, and he took his previous win before that in Greece. It would be 3 in his career now, and Goose, a little mistake there. Buda looking for second place as it was in Spain. It was more disappointing in Portimao. Montevideo was sort of okay for him, but he's going to be hoping to get back on the podium. He's a very strong and solid racer. When he does show up for you, he can put in great performances. Nuno, I should know that. He got a fastest lap for us once upon a time in Munich. Danimator still behind Nuno. Nomskar, Corvid, Sobel, who's ahead of Antti. Let's have a look at the tyre strategy. Corvid is on the mediums. Then we've got soft, and hard Jaruni and Grandi. They're a little bit behind Jurist and Pemu. Pemu's still looking to make up some more spots. Danny still very close behind Nuno, as you could see on the HUD there. Kraft in 15th place, and Andries makes a mistake there. Is that going to allow Goose to get back through on him? Andries looks to just sort of have a little bit of techie balling. You can actually see just a lap ahead of them, Danny and Nuno going through. So this is a great view of both fights here. Probably the two closest battles on the grid alongside that Eurus Pamusha scrap. We do have a bit of lag. Let's hope that clears itself up. Otherwise, we will be in trouble. Is it all good now? Is everyone all right? It looks like Danny lost time through that, and that's very annoying. He might have been hit by a flying car. Of course, the netcode in UR2D does have that happen sometimes. It's a very annoying thing to have happened, but Nomskar is back through. He'll be pleased with that at least, and I reckon he's almost, I would maybe say he'd let Danny back through. He's almost at that phase where the mediums are going to come more into effect than those softs, because they are about half worn, those softs, and the mediums definitely looking better on paper. Danny needs to close that gap back up, rob that podium off Nuno. This is a fight for the drivers, of course, Danny being second in the championship as it stands, but also for the constructors taking any points they can off RMC, and RMC ditto to Mayhem. So it's really interesting championship implications that you've got here. Hernandi leading for the LSA team, who haven't scored a podium in a little while. Let me just check that one. Their results so far this season have been 5th, 4th, 4th as their best in races, 7th, 10th and 6th. So consistent, yes, but not exactly what they want for a team that has winning in its blood. Of course, in round 9 last season in Brno, yes, it was Hernandi 3rd place, and a little bit before that in round 7 at the Hockenheim Ring as well. I believe that might have been Sobel. Before that, wins in Belgium and a 1-2 in Hungary. So they are a team who have taken some podiums, but again, none in the last 4 races. And for a team that, oh, Sobel very wide there. That's quite something, but he didn't seem to lose that much time with it. Let's focus back towards the front pack, because Danny is still ahead of Nomskar. Danny is now into the pit lane. Let's see if he'll lose many positions through this. Corvid is a good chunk behind him, and Danny shouldn't have to worry at all. That gap is pretty pronounced now to Corvid, and behind him Caddo catching on the soft compound tyre. Antti is a very scary man to have in your Wing Mirrors and Sobel not too far back as well. They both go for the hards. They think that will last them the 9 laps required to the end of the Grand Prix. Should be interesting seeing if the likes of Kado and Kubo, who will be in off the softs pretty soon, will they maybe take a different tyre. Hernandi is into the pit lane, barring some bad luck with rain. It would be hard to see him not win this. Will Nomskar come through ahead of him? Yes, he will. So he does just about get that track position on him, but really not by that long away. Nuno and Danny also came in. That's why they didn't breeze through. So Nomskar is, as it stands, in the race lead. But he's going to need rain right about now. It is cloudy, mind you. Will we have some rain summoned? I know that Levy might not be hoping for rain. Nomskar's special weather radar has been talked about quite a lot. Will it come in for him here? Will there be a heavy rain announcement in the final few seconds of this lap as Nomskar would perfectly have it time to come into the pit lane? No. But he'll come in for some slicks. And yes! Yes, I called it! We're going to have a rain, and Noms takes those wets, and it came just in time for him. I promise I don't manipulate the races. That was just really, really lucky. And Andy and Buda are going to need to come in. The rain does hit now. Suicide in as well as our Nuno and Danny, who got their stops in time. And Andy and Buda, who looked so good earlier in this race, are crawling through the middle sector of this track. And you can see those who are just about to come in, the likes of Uris, Grandy and Kraft, all really struggling out there as well. Hernandi will come into the pit lane, as will Buda. He's lost a lot through this late rain. Is Nomskar gonna take the genuine lead of the race as he comes out of the pit lane, and Andy noms into the lead? Full flow force. This is incredible for Nomskar. That lap overcut really worked out for him. Nuno, through all of this, is still in 3rd place, but it's a different mayhem behind him now. It's Buda and Danny only in 5th. Kado now in. He's fighting it out with Anti. This is 7th and 8th place. Oh, a little rocket there potentially. Who's going to win out this? They're going side by side. Hernandi, though, still looking to close that gap, as is Buda on Nuno. Nuno looking pretty adrift of these front two, and Nomskar has this 7th sense about him, and he knows, he can feel it in his knees when that rain's gonna come, and boy oh boy did that one work out. I'm really glad I hyped that up, actually. That's really funny. Hernandi going through 2nd place, and it's Nuno and Buda who's dropped back a little bit. He's about a second on that last lap. Look at that, it's a 42-second lap time. That's pretty bad. That's 3 seconds slower than the cars around him, and his teammate is up behind him now. While we've not got any close fights in the top 5, we'll have a look. Will it be team orders here for Mayhem? You bet it will. Buda down to 5th place. Is he going to fight this one? Surely not. You'd have to imagine he'll stick in tow with Danny, his newish teammate, only just this season. In the after the season started, did they become teammates? But Noms is a man who hasn't won a race in a little while now. It has been 13 since he took that victory in Brazil, and of course before that, you know, wins in Thailand, in Cuba, no, not in Cuba, what am I talking about, in Tuvalu rather, and of course a purple patch at the end of season 8. But during the Formula Esports era, just 3 wins in 23 races thus far. This should be really fascinating. Noms still leads us away. It's Hernandi, then it's Nuno, then it's Buda, and Danny is Buda. He definitely got back through on his teammate. Is he going to hold his teammate up a little bit here? This could be less than optimal for the Mayhem drivers. The track is going to dry out, but it won't dry out in time. Sobel, oddly, took the inters. He'll probably be the only person to even remotely benefit from this. But we do still have battles, of course, up and down the field. We've got Danny and Buda pretty close. Anti just a bit ahead of Kado now. Will the Frenchman be able to reclaim that 7th place that he has driven incredibly well for? The sun will speed up the drying period. It's only 3 laps to go, especially for a lot. It's only 3 laps to go. But, well, 2 now for Noms, the race leader. With the sun accelerating the drying period, especially for those drivers who do have more like 3 laps to go. God, the SCP's fighting it out with Andres here. Andres takes Suicide worldwide. Suicide's going to be fuming with that after the race. Is it worth it gambling and taking a set of slicks, even if the track isn't quite dry yet? If you get the softs in, the speed advantage you get through those, and more importantly, the pain that you get on some old wet weather tides, whether that be the wets for 17 drivers or inters for the one weirdo. Is it going to be worth it? Nomskar still starts the final lap here. The top 5 as they were. Nuno coming up to lap Grandi and Kraft. Grandi not having a particularly strong race for his lofty standards. Hernandi in second place will be gutted that this has been taken away from him because he had a really good start. He looked pretty much in control of the race from an early period, but it was that rain, and he takes a bit of grass there, it was that rain period that just meant it wasn't to be. Goose is into the pit lane. We love to see it, but none of the tyre changes will be mattering for these front lot as they're very, very close to the end here. He hasn't won in 13. He's put an end to it today. He weaves across the line, and Nomskar wins the Slovenian Grand Prix. Hernandi will come home in second. Nuno takes another podium after it looked somewhat in doubt. Danny and Buda, 4th and 5th for Mayhem. They'll be ruining the missed chances. It could have been more. Corvid, 6th place for him. It's going to be Antti in 7th. Will it be Kado or Kubo taking 8th place here? Kado looking very, very good. Buda shouldn't be chatting. Antti 7th here. Kubo will very late in the day take 8th spot. It'll be Kado in 9th. Sobel in 10th on the Inters. The track is bone dry now. Pamushas, 11th place for him. Urist, they're all drifting their way through the final sectors here. Nobody, apart from Goose and Andries, has taken those softs. Urus will finish in 12th place, and Kraft in 13th. That's his best ever finish in the league. Grandi 14th and Jaruni 15th. It's going to be Goose blasting through 16th place. He got the tyre change just right there, and I would have thought that more people might risk it with 1 lap to go. It could weigh out the pit time. We'll have a look at the final laps of the likes of Goose, who's going to come across the line for a PB lap 38.67. But if you look at his teammate, 45 seconds. Pretty slow final lap. And last place went to Andres. Suicide managed to beat him out there, but it's Nomskar who takes the win after 25 minutes and 57 seconds of racing. And Andy will take fastest lap in second place. LSA looking forward to that podium, but disappointed it won't be a win. Nuno, after the race didn't massively look in his favour, will be excited that it was third place and keeping that incredible podium record going. Mayhem's 4th and 5th. They'll be slightly worried now Kado has managed to get the RMC into a very respectable 9th place, and it was so close to being 8th behind Kubo, who took his probably best ever result, or if not at least tied. Corvid and Antti 6th and 7th, definitely Corvid's best. He'll be celebrating a lot with the FGR boys later today, although it's Australia for him, so it should be night or something, I don't know. Pamushas takes 11th place off that early collision. He wasn't able to climb back into the top 10. Sobel's Inters weirdly did actually prove alright in the end, but he wasn't able to catch the Frenchman ahead of him. LYR's 12th and 13th, Grande 14th, Jaruni 15th place, Goose and Suicide 16th and 17th, and it's Andres who was last for BAR. Right, anyone in here looking to give a post-race interview? Cheeky quick one. Goose, Eurus, Nuno, how did that one feel?
A bit disappointed not to win, but yeah, sooner or later it had to happen. Like the start of the season was too good, but yeah, they certainly have the pace to win today. But my decisions were not that good. Stayed out after the first rain, and then I went for Inters, and yeah, that cost me the race basically.
Yeah, pace
And
did
then,
look good.
yeah.
Pace did look good, but I think it's a matter of lap overcut or undercut, and that sort of make or break it a lot today, as Nandi will tell you.
But yes, at least in the championship, I think I still extending the gap, and I think we still got the championship, and yeah, let's just move on and focus on Jakarta then.
Absolutely. Danny and Buda, solid for Mayhem, but no podium for them, and they'll be a little bit disappointed in that. Goose?
Oh, and also congrats for Nomskar, by the way.
Great win for Noms. Anything to say from Goose, Eurus, anyone else?
Oh man,
Yeah. Go ahead.
just a fun race. Glad to be here.
Great call at the end, Goose. P16. Great call with the softs.
The long track, the early change was well worth it.
Yeah, looked like
Yeah.
it. P12
It
Eurus,
was-
that's very solid.
I thought for a moment that this track would be the one where rain really helped me, though the second rain kind of screwed it up. But in
Oh.
the first rain stint, I think I pitted first, right?
I think you did.
Yeah, and I managed to overtake a lot of people when they were in the pits.
Mm.
And I got up to like 11th. But then the second rain stint, it screwed me and Grandy over because it was right after we pitted. I think I had pitted in 2 laps. Grandy had just left the pits when the rain hit, so that was really unfortunate for him.
You win some, you
So
lose
yeah,
some. There
so
you
I ended
go.
up just losing Pamushes there, but it was fun. At the end, I kind of apologized to Granny because I think I had my cat just getting in my way, being annoying. So I think I might have pushed him off.
Right. What, the
But he was
cat or
also
Grandy?
overtaken by Karaf right at the end.
Great result for Kraft. Brilliant for him.
Yeah.
Right, that's all we have time for today. It's been an enthralling race here at Gosno and a very tricky and tumultuous track that proved decisive for a lot of strategy calls. We'll see you next week in Jakarta. Should be an incredible race there. But for now, bye-bye.